So he was my older brother. I'm the youngest of five. And, as long as I've been alive, he's always been my protector and my hero because me being the youngest, he was the one who would always save me from, getting beaten up or teased or what have you. So, in my eyes, he's always been my hero. So it's not surprising at all that he chose a career in firefighting to serve and protect others.
So he was my dad, and he had me when he was quite young. He was 24 years old. And so in many ways, I feel like I grew up with him, but he had a lot of energy as a dad. I remember being in elementary school and seeing friends who had much older parents and kind of wondering why my parents were so young. But looking back, like he was my best friend growing up. He had a lot of energy. We would stay up late. He would play video games with me. He would run around in the backyard, no matter what it was, whether we were at the beach or camping. We would, have the greatest nights together. And so, there's a lot of good memories we had together. And he always wanted me to have the most fun, me to have a really good time, me to get what I wanted. And just being with me was a joy for him. And I look back and I really cherish those memories and the times we had. And also his schedule was different because he worked nights. And so he actually was the one who kind of did the more motherly role, the kind of traditional mother role, and picked me up from school, took me to school more often. And so kind of he was the person I always looked forward to seeing after that last school bell rang at the end of the day. And because I knew we were going to have a really good time and do some really cool stuff or whatever adventure he had kind of planned for me.
Yeah. So I had met my firefighter when I was 18, and he was a lot of fun. He was a football player, really strong, and he ran with a group of guys from my high school that were football players. And we actually met at a party, and he was on the phone all night talking to one of his girlfriends. And I was annoyed because I needed to use the phone. So, but after that, he was smitten with me and pursued me for 2 years. We became very good friends. And finally I said yes, and it wasn't too long after that we ended up getting married. And so I think my first experience with him was he was extremely persistent, and he followed through in that persistence in being a firefighter. I have a picture of him in my office where he's 2 years old with a fire truck. There were stories that he told us that he lived down the street from a firehouse and he would hear the sirens go off and race up the street in his big wheel and hope the truck was going to come down the highway by his house. So it's a calling. When we were dating, he could get out of any traffic jam. This is even before he was a firefighter. And I used to say, you should drive fire trucks because you're fast driver, which scared me half to death at the time. And he could get out of traffic jams. So he pursued that calling when we were, I guess, probably 4 or 5 years into our marriage. And I have to say, at first I was scared because of the risk and the danger. But you have to, when somebody's called to a profession like this, you have to just shut it down in your mind and not be fearful of the day-to-day, what could happen. I think I love what Betty said because he was my protector. He looked after me, made sure I was okay. He, just things about safety around the house. Whenever we traveled, I could never carry my own luggage. I mean, he was a thoughtful person, and he had a real passion for life. I think, and he was a lot of fun. He could be a lot of fun. But that he did have that high energy, which could exhaust you too at the end of the day, for sure.
He definitely enjoyed golf at probably the last, I'd say 10 or 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
He golfed pretty much every day, except if there was like several inches of snow on the ground.
Or lightning striking.
Or lightning. But then
Yeah.
again, it was a Caddyshack.
Yeah.
That
risk it.
didn't stop him either if he was having a good game.
Yeah, I mean, he was definitely an athlete
Yeah.
growing up, and so he was always incredibly strong, very athletic, fast, and so whether it was, playing basketball with friends on the weekends, eventually playing basketball with me, throwing the football. He played for Burtonsville Volunteer Fire Department. They had like an annual Thanksgiving flag football game that he kind of was a big part of for a number of years. So he definitely loved to be active, and as he got older, he kind of transitioned into golf. He liked going to the gym and working out. I think probably his favorite thing was honestly being with us, and that sounds kind of like selfish in some way, but really he really enjoyed being with us. And I look back and whether it was taking vacations, I mean, he loved going to the state of Florida. He loved the Florida Keys. Those were his favorite place. That was actually our last vacation we went on.
And he planned it.
And he planned it. He also enjoyed going to Disney World, so we have tons of memories about walking around the parks for hours and hours. And that gets back to his energy. Some dads would be like, I'm tired, I'm going to sit by a pool. He'd be like, let's keep going. So he loved traveling, loved being with family, later years, his nephews. And just loved having just a good time, watching funny movies and just laughing.
He was definitely a prankster, wouldn't
Yeah.
you guys say? He was always up to something.
I think the classic is while he was the protector from everything outside of the house, it was you'd get home late at night and all the lights would be off, and then he'd run into the house somewhere and hide. And he'd be like, he's somewhere. And either I'm going to find him first or you're going to find him first. And whoever finds him first, he's going to scare the hell out of. And jump out and scream, But it was like, oh, here we are. We just got back from dinner, and now we gotta, now we gotta tread lightly as we turn on the lights in the house because he might be right around the corner. But it always made for a lively evening, nonetheless, and then that was kind of his playful side that definitely do miss now.
So we live in California, and like Todd said, in the later years, they would come out to visit us, and he invented something called the McLick, which, Jack, do you want to describe what the McLick is?
It's when you lick someone, like, on the cheek.
But it's a very loving lick, kind of gross, but he would I'm going to give you a McLick, and he would come in and, try to attack the boys and, lick them, and everybody's like, oh, stop.
And then he'd have them lick me.
Yeah, then they all of a sudden wanted to lick everybody, and I have to explain to everybody why my kids are licking, because it's called the McLick. And, but it was a lot of fun. And, right now I'm a single mom, and it's hard for me to let go and let my kids just go off with someone. So when they would come to visit, we would always go down to San Diego and sit on the beach, and he would just take the boys, and they would go out looking for, crabs or, for hours. And I could just sit and relax and talk to Verge and my sister, and the boys had a lot of fun with their uncle on the beach. So they created a lot of good memories with him. It was nice.
Well, you definitely, I've thought about this a lot because it'll be 18 months on Sunday. And and the firefighters that I've met throughout the years, and even since Rick left us, I just can't say he died. I say he left, And it's a real brotherhood, a sisterhood. You really find that out. I found that out more since he left. And I know Rick was very humble about his work and what he did. And I would say to him, you have one of the most prestigious jobs in the world, because firefighters always in the top 3. And he'd be like, nah, I'm just, I'm just doing my job. That's what I do, or I'm a taxi service, or, and I think they have to be so humble because they can't really see themselves as heroes because they are. And I think the things that they see on the day-to-day, there's a lot of days where you just sit at the station and you don't run any calls. But then there's those days where you do run a call. And he's talked to me about a couple calls. There was one where he ran a fire and there was a 9-month-old baby in the bedroom, and he went up the ladder, and you see this scene a lot where the firefighter's carrying the baby down the ladder, and the baby died, but he was sad about the baby dying, but at the same time the mother had something to bury, and so there's those things that, my husband didn't really talk to people about the things that he saw. He's seen a few horrible suicides and dismemberments and, burn victims of domestic violence. I mean, horrible things that if I had seen one of them, I would be, in a mental institution where they just go on. And I really think these men and women are heroes, and they stay humble with their work. I guess you have to when you do this type of work. But when they leave us, as they do, that's when they're just so honored. And my husband was very humble. Like, he would not like any of this attention at all. So it's just the irony of it all is what is amazing. I know, I'm a woman of faith, a Christian, and I believe they look down from heaven and they see these things. And so that's what gives me some hope here with my beliefs.
I think one other thing, because just hearing that, that we didn't touch on, because we're kind of talking about who he was outside of work, but he was really the hardest worker I've ever met. And, even his captain, who, since his passing, has been nothing short of being an angel in terms of the support he's given to our family. But, he used to say how he couldn't get him just to stop cleaning in the engine bay. Those days that were kind of slow and there didn't run a calls, people talk about how my dad would be like, okay, let's get these tires clean, let's clean this part of the engine bay, let's clean out the lockers, let's get this fixed. People would be like, Rick, slow down, stop, take a break, But he was wired that way, that he was just really passionate about his job. And, he earned every penny that he got. And, like my mom said, he saw a lot of things, but he carried that burden, and I believe he felt that it was his duty to carry that burden, and not to, put it off onto someone else. Now, I do think, it might have benefited him some had he talked about it to some people, for sure. But, he really took his role as a firefighter very seriously. And, since his passing, just the support we've gotten from the fire department has been absolutely incredible. I was actually, while going through the mourning process, which is still ongoing, I was almost distracted from mourning by just how overwhelmed I was with love and support, and just taken aback by surprise with just the outpouring from the fire department. Particularly, the Local 1664 in Montgomery County, Maryland, and the Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service have been nothing short of spectacular, and really memorialized my father as a hero, and it means a lot. Yeah, I think the service was a big for him, and in some ways, he was a man of faith as well, and I believe that he was not a perfect man, but his job was helping people, and that was a manifestation of his faith. To help others, to give back to someone else, to give back to the people who are having a worse day, who are in a bad situation, who need a hero, who need someone to run in when everyone else is running out.
I think Rick really had he was very passionate, and he had the last name means gentle heart, and his last name. And I think he had a real tenderness for the underdog, for people who were hurting. We had a widow who lived across the street from us, and he cut her grass every day for like till he passed away, for years. I think it was like 6 years. And but that was anybody who was hurting, he had a heart for. He really did. And he had a calling with older ladies. So older ladies just adored him for some reason.
And children.
And
Yeah.
children and older ladies. So he just had
His best friend was
a best friend.
1.5-year-old.
Yes, it was a 1.5-year-old who actually called him mommy. He was in our nursery, and he at church, and he would have to come down because he just wouldn't. I ran the nursery at church, and so this little boy just did not want to be with anyone, not even his nana, and so but he did want to be with Rick, and so he called him mommy, and unfortunately, soon after Rick left us, he started calling him Uncle Rick. So, but that was this little boy Nathan. His best friend was Uncle Rick, and there's pictures all over that I took actually a couple weeks before Rick left us. They were just playing, and I just snapped it with my phone. So.
Well, I was thinking about the eulogy, and Todd, his son, really touched on something. Ricky was always doing something. He would come out to visit us, and he'd be cleaning my house or doing that. And I was like, just relax and enjoy your vacation. And Todd touched on that, different love languages. And that was Rick's way of showing his love, was taking care of you and serving others. And that definitely is who he is. And he didn't do it for the thank yous and the applause or to be given the title of a hero, to be a fighter. That's just who he was. That's just his heart and what he wanted to do and what he loved to do.
I mean, I agree with what's been said, but I would also add that he wanted to help people, and how he sometimes went about that was just by having fun with them and giving them attention and wanting them to enjoy themselves. So many of my friends love my dad because they enjoyed being around him. His friends, would talk about how much fun he was. We used to go camping, and he'd be the one like, all right, let's all go hide and seek with the flashlight tag. And he did it because he didn't do it because, he was a little bored, but also he was like, I think he processed it like, how can I make this experience more special for these people right here? And if it was Michael and Jack on the beach in California, if it was some other person's kids from our church who he only seen once in the last 6 months on the beach, he would make that experience on the beach the most special day for them. He'd take them out in the water. He'd build a sand castle. He'd be like, okay, as he got older, he'd be like, okay, I need 15 minutes to sit in my chair for a little bit and get some sun. But he really wanted to help people, and I believe one of the ways he went about doing that was just by bringing people joy. Because he did have a zest for life. And just like, life should be exciting, life should be fun, we should be enjoying yourself. And there should be play in life. And I think that is sometimes overlooked and lost, particularly in people as they get older, and he never lost that.